talk on one side and have skills but are missing the basics. Here are some people who actually do a pretty cool blog. Like this. Is that you? Okay. So yeah, I was reading this post. I thought it was really interesting, and I said, huh, remote file includes. I seem to recall hearing something about that. So okay, fingerprint them. They're running Drupal 6.12. All right, quick, let's go look up Drupal 6.12. Yeah, yeah, you guys have got a vulnerability in your site. Go fix it. Sorry, I hope they wouldn't mind being picked on. Some observations. As you saw from that, how it starts off sort of very low at the bottom and then ramps up to that bell curve within the last 3 to 8 versions. People tend to, most of the weight is up there at the top. Most of the weight is within that last 3 to 8 versions. But we've found that for security purposes, that's not good enough. You really need to be in the last 1 or 2 or 3 versions to stay out of those vulnerabilities. We see, as I pointed out, a huge spike at versions provided by package managers and hosting services. So you can't blindly trust those to keep you up to date. There is a possibility some of those were backporting the patches, but not happening in a lot of cases. We can go back and see if it changes the numbers too much. I don't think it will. So, and also improperly removed web apps. Saw this in a number of cases. If a site installed Drupal and then 6 months later decided they wanted to go to Joomla, they would just install the new one right on top of it, replace the index.php and call it good. And so in their vulnerability reports and their scan reports, in their audits, they would say, yes, our front-facing web app is up to date, it's at the latest version. Entirely forgetting that there is this other thing on there, that the functionality still exists, the database realistically is probably still intact, and you can go hit that code and it will function perfectly fine. It's just that nobody normally sees it. So those are some things that I was able to turn up when you do the app guessing and you say, huh, Joomla and Drupal? That's kind of odd. Net visible test QA sites also saw instances of where the main site would be installed and up to date, and Shodan would turn up QA or staging.example.com. And that site was very much not up to date. So if you are not scanning yourself, if you're not aware of all of the properties and all of the apps that you're exposing to the world, definitely first thing you need to become aware of those. Precision, how do we do on all of these scans, all the machines that we hit? Average versions that we came up with was 3 versions. These couple of things, some Japanese versions of WordPress actually. I didn't have the Japanese files, so that bumps those up. But realistically, if you use BlindElephant either as a standalone tool or if you're building it into as a library into some app of your own, you should generally be able to pin things down to 1 or 2 versions. So that tends to be good enough for our purposes. Speed. I was hoping to not send you out to get a cup of coffee, and we do all right. The average is 6.4 seconds, 6.5 seconds. 95% of scans are done within 95% of fingerprints are done within 10 seconds. Guessing will take you a little bit longer. So how'd we do? We were talking about things that we want in a web application scanner. It's very generic. We use the same code for all apps and plugins. It's very fast. Get you done in under 10 seconds, hopefully. Low resources, that's the average of what we pull down from the remote site. It can be a little bit less or a little bit more. Accurate, 2, 3 versions. Pick up an ID on 98% of sites. I'll figure out what's up with that other site, and we'll get it for sure. Resistant to hardening and banner removal, that was what drove us down the road to go to this technique. So yes, it is absolutely resistant to hardening and banner removal. And then it's very easy to support new apps. An hour or 2 hours, get everything, dump it into a directory, unpack it, and go. So if you have apps that you want to support or help support, by all means. Some source of error, let's talk about web app incompletely removed. Sometimes that can be a false positive. Partial or manual upgrades, we do okay on catching these. Changed app root, maybe it was going on with that other one. Static hosting, same thing. You can't run this tool directly against Wikipedia because they have everything hosted on, instead of en.wikipedia where we look for it, it's on static.wikipedia, and we can perhaps put in some logic to look at figuring that out. Forked projects, and then here's the last thing that is the Achilles heel of static file fingerprinting. Is it's using cryptographic hashes. So if someone systematically made changes to every single static file we wanted to fetch, this technique, as currently implemented, goes away completely. So people don't do it yet. We actually want to make that available. I've got somebody who's interested in this project who will hopefully be committing something to provide that functionality to web administrators to just go ahead and blow BlindElephant out of the water. So there's two sides of this where we are providing tooling on both sides. So it is open source. It's available there now. We're still figuring out the license. It will be an open source license of some point. I think we're going between GPL or LGPL. We'll have that figured out very soon, but you can go there and be able to get the code. So to do some stuff that folks should do, but running a little short on time. So any questions? Oh, sorry, web page. Flying by. blindelephant.sourceforge.net, or it should be Googleable now. It's a pretty unique phrase. Just don't type in white elephant.
We have about 5 minutes left. You want a question? You mentioned backporting of patches.
Yes.
Which appliance vendors tend to do. Rather than putting the new version, they'll patch the only bit that's needed for a critical vuln, et cetera, et cetera. And you said that you doubted that much of that was going on, but I wonder how you could justify or sort of qualify that statement. In other words, you might be overestimating the number of vulnerable systems.
Yes, I very much could be overestimating the number of vulnerable systems, and maybe I should back off that and say it's entirely possible that some % of people are backporting those patches, and so I am over-reporting. And that would be good research to do to follow up on this. So do some of that, or find people who have those hosting providers and check and see if the vulnerable stuff is in place. On a couple of ones, like for the Ubuntu and Debian package managers, I actually went and looked to see if there was any backporting going on, and it wasn't. So I checked some of the package manager side. Anecdotally, not statistically, but hosting managers, I didn't hit that as much. Certainly, we can go do that, and I'll rerun these numbers because I'd rather them be sort of more accurate and a little more conservative. That'd be good.
So if you're an appliance vendor and you are backporting just the vulnerability part of upgrades.
Yes, then we have reported you as vulnerable where you are not.
I know this is a bit of security, but for those people who are doing that, given the effectiveness of this technique, would you recommend that they change something so that you recognize it, or do they leave it and hope that the guys try the wrong attack?
I think there's the bad guys. In some cases, are doing fingerprinting. In other cases, they're just launching the attack. So this has less utility for the people who just want to go out there and own systems. But if hosting providers want to get really clever and apply that technique of going and making a trivial modification to all those files, that's something they could absolutely do. That would nuke this at the hosting provider level. So I don't have necessarily right now a recommendation on which way they should go. I think the bad guys are just going to launch the exact same attack on every machine that they come across and see what happens. So it's the lowest effort for them. Yeah.
On a practical note, the usefulness of this tool is kind of predicated on the availability of up-to-date signatures. Is there a model yet to put signature sharing in place, et cetera?
Yes, the SVN has signatures in it right now. I'm trying to figure out what the right model is to be able to accept signatures from people who want to contribute. These are actually just pickle files right now, so there is some danger in just freely passing those around. So I want to get some validation on that. And I don't know what the right model is for developing sort of, the standard BlindElephant WordPress data files. we will come up with something. I'm open to any community suggestions, or maybe if there's merging or some kind of voting about this is a really good file. I want to try and keep the fragmentation down, but I do want to get as many people contributing as possible. Does that answer your question? I didn't actually see who.
Yes.
Okay.
Patrick, I've got 2 questions. One is, did you see any correlation between open source and COTS software? And the second is, have you looked at maybe putting this into a hosted database like SSL Labs?
Funny you mentioned SSL Labs. Actually, Ivan helped me out with some of the getting the hosts to scan. I haven't looked at doing that. I'm not entirely certain where I saw you were going, but if it's a good idea, come up and discuss with me afterwards, because there's lots more places we can go with this. And then the first part of the question was, commercial versus. Didn't really have access to a lot of commercial software, so that's why you saw that these were primarily open source, because that was easy to get to. If anybody wants to help me start creating more fingerprint databases for that commercial stuff, we can do that en masse, or we can start collecting it sort of version by version by version from people that we know who are running those versions. I'm also looking at possibly doing something that will reach out, and if it knows a little bit about an app, it will take a new version, pull the data down, and incorporate that into the database. So, do it the hard way. But we'd much rather do it the easy way if people if people have access to that stuff.
One last question.
Yeah, so it sounds like in order to run this, you would have to have a pretty extensive collection of all the different applications you would potentially want to fingerprint, and then all the other versions. What kind of data storage are you looking at to do that?
So the nice thing is, for anybody who wants to just fingerprint, the data files themselves are 300K, 400K. Very small data files. For anybody who wants to build a table for, like, say, WordPress, every single version was like a gigabyte. But only one person has to have that. If I want to sort of generate up-to-date WordPress versions, I have those on my machine. But not everybody who wants to do fingerprinting has to have that. So it's back end versus front end, really. Does that wrap it up? And then the other thing that I was just reminded about is we've also got on the Qualys community. If you go here, there's we've got some forums and that kind of stuff set up, and if people want to sort of contribute and discuss, this will take you as well to a link to some community that we've set up on Qualys. The code is directly here on BlindElephant. So that's what we got. Thank you very much.